To find the equation of the sine function, where y equals a sine b c x minus c plus d, we need to know how to find the different parameters a, d, b, and c. So a is based on this formula here, and it's based on the subtraction of y coordinates. And it's important to understand that why we do this. We subtract to get a distance, and we divide that distance by 2. So we want to find the distance between the top and bottom, divided by 2, and take the absolute value. For d, it is this middle line halfway between the top and bottom. So what we do is use an average formula. So instead of minus, we use plus. So we do y max plus y min, and we average it out to find the middle point along that between the min and maxes. For the b, we have to first of all calculate the period, and we do that by, again, finding a distance by subtraction. We take that absolute value because we want that distance, and we want a length between the min and max points, and we double that length to get the period. And then we can calculate b by dividing by 2 pi by t. And then lastly, the c, there's a few different ways to get it. When you have the visual, there's an easy way to do it, and I'll explain it to you when we find it. Okay, so we're going to first of all start with a and finding the a value. So we're going to do y max and y minus y min. So 1 minus negative 3, the distance is 4. And then we're going to divide that distance of 4 by 2. And we get an amplitude of 2. And we can just count that. For the d, we can see that it's at negative 1. But we can also use our formula. So d is equal to, it's going to be 1 plus negative 3 divided by 2, and that's going to give us the negative 1 value of d. So in this case here, we have d is equal to negative 1. I'm just going to erase that. It looks a little messy over here. For our period, we're going to find the difference between the two x coordinates. So pi over 2 minus negative pi over 2, and that's going to be equal to pi. So we're going to end up multiplying that by 2 to get a period of 2 pi. Okay, in this case, the b value is going to be 1. And we can see that because once we see the period is 2 pi, we know that there's no compression or expansion involved in there. So far we have our graph, our equation that looks like this. Y equals 2 sine 1 times x minus c. Okay, and I'm just going to leave that blank actually. Plus, in this case, actually it's going to be minus, since our vertical shift is down 1, it's going to be minus 1. So as for the c, it's going to be different for sine and cos. But for sine, an easy way to do this, if you can see it visually, is if it is going in this upward direction from min to max, we just take the middle point, or the average point of the min and max. So pi over 2 plus negative pi over 2 divided by 2 is going to be 0. So we have a horizontal shift of 0. So that would be the easiest way. There's other ways to do it, but if you have this visual where that is the middle point between the min and max represents the starting point of the sine function. Looking at the next one, looking at part B here, we're going to find the amplitude first. We're going to do the top minus the bottom, so minus negative 2, and then we're going to divide that by 2, so we get an amplitude of 3. The middle line is going to be, again, the average. The d is going to be equal to 4 plus negative 2 this time, and we're going to divide that by 2, and we get the middle line is equal to 1. Our period, the t value here, is going to be equal to pi over 4 minus pi over 4. Or sorry, pi over 4. Yes, pi over 4 minus negative pi over 4. Okay, and then we're going to times that by 2. So we end up with a period is equal to pi. So our b value is going to be 2 pi over pi, which is equal to 2. We can see that's a horizontal compression of 2. And then for our c value, we can see that the average is going to be, again, at that point, we're going up in this direction. That's a starting point for sine, so our c value is going to be 0. So when I write the equation, I get y equals 3 sine, our b value is 2, the horizontal shift is 0, and then we have a vertical shift of +1. And then lastly here we have our amplitude. Our amplitude we calculate as, again, the distance, so we subtract 4 minus 0, and then we're going to divide that by 2, so our amplitude is 2. The d value is going to be the middle point, so it's going to be halfway between 4 and 0, and that's going to be equal to 2. Our period, we subtract the min and max coordinates of the x coordinates of the min and max, so we end up with 3 pi over 8 minus pi over 8. That's the distance, and then we're going to double that distance, so we end up with 2 pi over 8 times 2, so that's going to be pi over 4 times 2, or a t value of pi over 2. That means our b value is 2 pi over 2, so we get a b value of 4. Okay, so we got a horizontal compression of 4. So then we can find our middle point here of our horizontal shift. We can use that. We could actually use that point and say that we have a negative sine value. In fact, let's do that in this case, because we'll switch it up a bit. Okay, so we're showing an alternate method now. Is I'm going to use that middle point there at 0. So I'm going to use a horizontal shift of 0, which is kind of nice. So our c is equal to 0 in this case. But in order to make c equal to 0, we have to have a sine. So I'm just going to write it in first, sine 4x plus 2, but it has to be a negative sign because of the location, the direction at which the sign starts off. It's going down when it goes.